Hey everyone. Today's video I want to cover a story that I found online recently that just seems so bizarre to me that I couldn't help but actually read it. It's one of those stories where when you read the headlines, it seems so confusing that you can't believe it's actually real, it's just made up. And one story that was like that for me was a story about how Pokemon cards help catch someone who's setting off explosives. It's always those stories that sound dangerous, but have one childlike aspect to them that separate them from being serious. As well as the mugshots that are sometimes included, with the contrast on this one being so funny, with someone looking so miserable next to a picture of Pokemon cards. But anyways, this story started around the middle of May in the Hartford County in the US state of Maryland, around the South Rogers and James Street, where people would wake up in the middle of the night because of the sounds of explosions, kind of cherry bombs, so much more violent and louder. This wasn't a one-time occurrence because several more would go off over the weeks. Typically, the Abilene police would go there to investigate it to see what was causing it, but because it was so late in the middle of the night, it was nearly impossible to find anyone who might be suspicious because they ran away. But of course, if you often wake up to the sound of loud explosions in the middle of the night, it will only be natural to be scared and call the police to see what's going on. But recently, on the 15th of June, around 3:30 a.m., another explosion went off, and when the officers got there, they actually found a crater from the explosion where Pokemon cards were around it with wrappers as well. And although that sounds pointless information, one police officer who was there actually remembered arresting a man earlier who had similar cards with him when he got arrested, which was enough to get a search warrant and search the house of the suspect. The man they were suspicious of was a 30-year-old man called Jeremiah E. Burnett, who had stacks of Pokemon cards at his house, which probably explained why they found some more at the crater. The only part that wasn't explained though, he said, was why he left Pokemon cards at the crater, because I feel if you cared about Pokemon cards that much, you would surely take care of them and not leave them near an explosion crater. The only thing I can imagine is they were cards he really didn't so he wanted to destroy them violently. Because if you're that old and you're obsessed with Pokemon to the point that you have stacks of cards with you at home, I feel when you spend so much money always getting the same cards, you would have some volatile reactions to getting the same ones over and over. I should probably also bring up the explosions they found in his house that he was using in the middle of the night, which were M80s. If you didn't know, M80s are similar to cherry bombs, but they're much more powerful because they have more powder inside them. Although they are small and they can fit in your hand, they can produce pretty big explosions, and they can actually cause you injuries if you get close to one, or worse, hold one in your hand. It's even scarier when you consider the fact that those explosives were big enough to actually leave a crater, which even though it might have been on grass or soil, that's still pretty scary to think about. And the reason why they're so dangerous is because they were actually using the military to simulate explosions artillery fire, and were later sold as fireworks to the public. So these aren't typical fireworks that are made for fun, because even those are pretty dangerous. These ones definitely lean to make a more violent reaction. Plus they're illegal to sell as well, so the only way you can get hands on them is by getting a federal explosive license from the ATF, which I imagine is pretty difficult if you don't have a professional background. The only way apart from that is sometimes the ATF hands out M80 to farmers to help them scare away animals causing them issues. And if you feel these aren't as powerful as they sound, there have been actual real life deaths from M80s, with one story I came across while looking this up. In 1999, there was a 4th of July party in New York City where people went around a steel bin and threw M80s inside them. And after one of them exploded, metal shards actually flew out and struck a 14-year-old boy in the throat, killing him, with 3 other people injured as well, with the guys who were caught throwing the M80s into the bin being arrested as well. So if you try to use this for fun or be careless, it can definitely end up dangerous. With that being said, I definitely feel Burnett knew people who had access to M80s and therefore wanted to sell it to them because they could make money out of it. What's even funny is that around the time he got arrested, someone else called in the police to report when they had an argument with him, he ended the conversation by saying boom, loudly and violently, which regardless of context or whatever they're talking about, definitely doesn't look good on his side. As well as the fact that a few days later, the guy actually found a Pokemon card on his doorstep in the morning, almost that was his calling card. It's stuff like this that really makes you question what kind of reality you live in, because this just feels impossible to believe actually happened. After he was arrested, the police asked him why he set off the explosives, where he didn't give a reason and he wasn't connected to any groups, so it seemed he was just doing it for fun, didn't give a shit. He was charged for 2 counts of possessing destructive devices and 2 counts of using them, but he was released after posting a $10,000 bond. And although nobody really got hurt, you definitely make the point these kind of loud explosions could cause some people distress, especially those people that have PTSD. Not to mention the fact that dogs can also be scared of loud noises like thunder, so it's not these acts didn't cause any harm. I don't know what it is about criminals that Pokemon much, because I actually saw a story earlier about how criminals were able to send cocaine by putting them in Pokemon cases and then mailing them. This happened in the beginning of June, where a police officer went undercover as a postman to deliver a package to an apartment where two guys were waiting for it, one 19-year-old and one 20-year-old. So already the story sounds funny enough, just by the fact like they were trying to like send drugs by mailing it, with the only way of like not getting caught is by putting like in a Pokemon's case, which in their mind like they believe it was innocent looking. But either way, you're still asking to get caught by mailing drugs. So that explains how they got caught and why the police like went undercover to give it to them. But after the package was dropped off, the two guys picked it up and ran to their car to get away, but like the police were already expecting it, so they were waiting there in the car and they got arrested. After they were arrested and the police got a search warrant, they opened up the case to discover 2 kilograms of cocaine, which even though in the pictures they look like they're wrapped up, I definitely feel like there was some traces of cocaine outside the case just by handling it, which is why like the post office were like set off. Although it looked like this was the first time doing it because like how crude it was, they actually sent in 5 packages before from Puerto Rico, so that means like it actually did work the first few times. But of course, sending drugs in the mail is a dumb idea in general, so they were gonna get caught sooner or later. My only guess on why they use like Pokemon cases specifically is because they weren't worried about like them opening up and see what's inside, but they did anyways, and they were like pretty fast to catch it as well. At the end of the day, it's funny seeing how people could like make up headlines that are really confusing but are like technically true the more you read into it, and it's weird seeing like how Pokemon was tied to like both of these stories. As for the guy with the cards and the M80s, now that the neighbors know who it was, they might be like actually properly pissed with him, but it was still funny reading these stories anyways. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.